Yo, Champion Macon. So, games are kinda popular, huh? Even charities want in on that sweet game $1 by asking these nerds to do incredibly unhealthy game marathons in the name of, good health? Collecting physically also seems to be at an all-time high, and I know you can spend hours of your life watching people talking about collecting and showing off their collections, because I've done exactly that. And there's a lot of advice that has been reiterated to the point of being considered axiomatic, but it's been so out of line with my own experience that I wanted to suggest different angles of looking at the game of game collecting. Your resources are finite. The space, the money, arguably the time invested into finding the games, so a lot of YouTubers recommend having a plan before you first start your collection. Now, while this sounds like good advice in hindsight, I think it's something that is detached from their experience as someone starting out. I think that collecting is, well, it's like anything else where you kind of have to just do it, you have to be open to the experience, and then you kind of just figure it out as you go along. I know that my expectations when I first started, well, they're definitely different to what I actually end up enjoying the most. And for an example of this, I've always been more about utility when it comes to gaming, and so I'd rather drop money on games I haven't played than on something I've borrowed, or something that I've rented, perhaps something I own digitally. And so when I started out, I had a lot of consoles with a lot of backwards compatibility, and I was never really interested in putting any money into changing that. But as an element of collecting is displaying that collection, over time I became more and more interested in plugging some of those hardware holes. This then evolved further into wanting certain limited or collector's editions of consoles, and you can't really ask for a better example of valuing aesthetics over functionality than that. So you can see that by formulating a plan from the get-go, at best you're just basing it on who you are as a gamer at that point in time, as you don't really know yet who you're going to become as a collector. Like I said, I was kind of fortunate when I started out in the sense that I already had a lot of consoles, a lot of backwards compatibility, and that gave me a lot of options in terms of what I could pick up and play. Now those advocating a plan would say, no, you focus on one console, or one series, or one genre, or something along those lines, typically the console line. I would just say, if it looks like you want to play it and the price is right, then just go for it. So the reason I say this is that there are arguments from a mindset of limitations, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to drop a bunch of money on shovelware, bad tie-ins, just because it's missing from your X collection, when you can put that same limited resource towards a game that you'd actually enjoy. I think it's a good idea to view your collection as a series of choices. What did you, with your individual tastes, your individual circumstances, walk out of a shop with and unload onto your shelf that day? Now, whereas a complete collection, while in some regards it is impressive, it is a carbon copy by definition, and there's just something soulless about it if it didn't come about organically. And I think it goes without saying that they just wouldn't happen organically, because there are so many crappy games out there, and that ratio of good to bad games is just way worse on some consoles than others, isn't it, Wii? So this one's going to be the most controversial thing I say, probably. There's a lot of these YouTubers really pushing the narrative of supplementing their purchases by gobbling up any and every opportunity that they see in a market. And hey, if that sounds good to you, then you do you, buddy. In fact, I even think reselling has its place. If games are locked up in some bumpkin town with a small user base, then yeah, it's good to liberate those games into a wider marketplace. But I live in a city where I know there's a high demand, and so it's annoying when I see someone checking everything in store, grabbing multiple copies of the same game. And you can just tell they aren't even going to enjoy the games before selling them on. So all that means is that another local will come into the store 5 minutes later, they'll fail to find anything decent at a reasonable price, and they have to go home and look that same stuff up online for the marked up price, which pushes the prices up again locally, because let's face it, that's how these secondhand stores are pricing things anyway. So it's a bad feedback loop for everyone involved, except arguably the reseller, but even they aren't pocketing it in a significant sum of money for the amount of damage that they're doing in most cases. So whenever I see something underpriced, I'm not going to lie, the thought always flickers through my own mind, but I always prefer to think that some kid comes along after me, and he goes home, he has a great time with the game for $15 less than if I had resold it to him for $10 profit and made him wait a week for shipping. Further to that, I think it's a really good idea to be honest with yourself about what you're here for. Because you came for advice on collecting, right? Now that's very different from speculating or investing in the game market. And these are three things that are getting very heavily confused and conflated at the moment. And I think the reason for that is, again, your resources, they're finite, and so it's tempting to perform mental gymnastics to justify your purchases. But you shouldn't have to. If you have disposable income, then you can use it for whatever you want. That's basically its meaning. So collect what you want to collect, enjoy ownership of that item, and if you do get a great deal on something, then yeah, enjoy that feeling. But if you want to save your money or build it into something larger, then you want to collect wealth, not games. And there are just way better ways to do that than to buy something you're not really all that into, store it for 10 years, and then hope that it's increased in value. I think it's worth mentioning another common thing you'll hear in this community here, and that is game preservation. Now, if you're legitimately motivated by that, then that's cool. But I also think a certain degree of realism needs to be employed. Who are you preserving them for? How are they more secure with you than with someone else? And how would people get access to these games en masse should their numbers ever dwindle? I think it's neat if someone is sincere about this, but again, I worry it's becoming a bit of an unneeded justification for game collecting that doesn't really hold up to much scrutiny. And that's that. I know I'm supposed to e-beg here for likes and subs, but who cares? If you enjoy the content and find it useful, then that's enough. I'll probably be uploading more in the future, talking about some of my own favourite pieces from my collection, and giving hot takes on why stuff that is constantly dunked on is actually pretty good, like the Wii U. Yep, just good, wholesome gaming content. Maybe I'll see you there.